Octo is pleased to bring you this Planner Unplugged series in partnership with Scottish Widows, focused on helping advisors deliver better outcomes for clients today and in the future. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Planner Unplugged from Octo members. I'm Katey Pigden, Content Director, and as ever, I'll hand over to my guest to introduce themselves, if that's okay. So Danielle, over to you.
Hi, I'm Danielle Sissons. I'm founder and financial planner of Ivey Financial Planning. I'm excited to share with you today what we're working on.
Thank you, Danielle. So this is very new, isn't it, Ivy? Can you talk?
Very new. Yeah, I'm just, as we're recording, finishing up the end of my second week. So very, very fresh. Kind of had my last day of employed financial planner life on the Friday and then started bushy-tailed and bright-eyed on the Monday, raring to go.
Excellent. Well, we love to hear it and hope it all goes well. I've seen you've had some really positive reaction to it. We came across each other on LinkedIn, which is actually where I'm finding a lot of financial advisors and planners at the moment. Really nice to see. How did it come about? How's it been?
It was a bit of a mixed bag between a spontaneous start and a long time coming.
Right. Okay.
I've been in financial services, financial planning world for just over a decade now. Came in from school at administration level and worked my way up. And it was always on my radar that one day I'd have my own firm and I'd scale it and I'd have all these kind of grand plans. But it was always in my mind that that was quite a big, difficult thing to do, quite a far off thing, something I saw kind of much further down the line in my career. And it was having my first baby, my little baby girl, that really kind of pushed me to make the move much sooner than I'd ever planned.
Yeah.
It was that push for flexibility, for control, seeing some things in industry that never really sat right over the last decade. Nothing awful, nothing too scary, but kind of little things, little habits and little biases that you see happening kind of repeatedly over the years that you think, when I have my firm, I'm going to do that different.
Yes.
When I have my firm, I'm going to try and change that bit. And having my little girl really was kind of like, right, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And all those little bits that have annoyed me over the years, that's what I'm going to change. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. How old is your little one?
19 months.
So you're not exactly going easy on yourself then. You're thinking, right?
No, we're still not sleeping through the night. I'm going one step further to challenge myself and actually trying to build this on a part-time basis.
Yeah,
as well.
Okay. Obviously you'll be an absolutely fantastic role model for her, and we know we need more women in this profession. We need to be trying to advise more women out there as well, because we know we've got a bit of an issue with that. So what were some of those niggly things? Like you said, nothing drastic, terrible in the world profession.
Don't get anybody in trouble.
Yeah.
Things like you have a husband and wife as clients, and client one is husband by default. You might never have even spoken to the wife. She might never have been invited to the annual reviews. You might come to do an application and it's just, he's going to pass that on to her. There's assumptions around the wife's part in the advice process, how aware she is of the investments they have together even. I've seen where there's maybe clients separating, divorces, where you see the husband maybe starting to move assets and you kind of question, is there there's an ulterior motive there, and perhaps the woman's not in the know of what's going on here. And things like that, paired with not seeing women round the table when you go to these kind of events for financial planners, and seeing lots of women stuck in power planning, administration roles. And all throughout the years, I was always told this golden nugget of, you should try and be an advisor. You can build an advisor role around your family. It's the most flexible role. And when I got to having my family, it was suddenly, actually the advisor role's not easy to make flexible because you've got clients. If you were a power planner, it would be much easier to go part-time, to go for those flexi hours. So just kind of little things around how women are included in the advice process, how some of them are spoken about after the advice process, how women are encouraged into this as a career, how we're treated once we are in it, once a career. All these kind of little things just kind of add up to not the most welcoming environment.
Yeah. And it's a real shame because I think, what is it, around 16%?
Yeah. It's gone down. It was 18%.
I was going to say between 16 and 18 because I was like, I can go through those figures in my head. But yes, we've gone backwards slightly
Yeah.
then, unfortunately. We know that it can be a great career for people. I've spoken to, some women that have built up businesses at different stages, some very, very early on, very young, have had that ambition, that drive. Some have actually come to it a little bit later and have surprised people in that sense, going, yeah, this is something I want to do. I've been thinking about this for a while, but it's slightly disappointing to hear that maybe it's not as flexible as it's portrayed to be sometimes. And obviously that we need to do something about this. So you've gone, I'm going to go off on my own and do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the difficulty with the flexibility from the employed side comes from the employment element. So obviously, as an advisor, you've got lots of options about how you kind of start up, whether you kind of start your own thing, go self-employed via someone else's company, or the employed route. And I've always been employed. I never really kind of thought to take the other step. And that's kind of been my experience where the flexibility was harder to come by. But that's kind of something I would like to try and build into my business as I scale. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's just me right now, week 2.
Yeah.
But as I scale, I do have plans to kind of bring team members in, and offering things like part-time advisor roles or jobs share advisor roles isn't something I saw on the market when I
No.
looked. Me like, if this isn't easy to come by here, where else can I go? Where is the flexibility? And they're options you see in so many different roles, so many industries, but not ours. So that's something I would like to offer, kind of a job share, flexi, part-time, all the way from advisor, paraplanner, administrator, and try and build out those roles that are kind of built around, let's be real, mothers
Yes.
really benefit from those flexibilities. And returning from mat leave is so hard. Changing industry, changing career at that kind of big life point is so common. So trying to make that a bit easier for someone I just think would be so rewarding.
Absolutely. I remember going back to work myself after having my little one, and he's 3.5 now, just over that. Take prospect, going off on maternity leave and
So
like
hard. So
thinking, I've not taken longer than a couple of weeks off of work for a holiday or something. What is this that I'm going to be going for working out the financial situation while doing that?
yeah,
Very, very challenging
yeah,
as well. I
really.
know it's going to have different circumstances personally, but that was a hard thing for me to navigate. And then thinking, right, okay, you're off for a year. How does that work? What does that look like when that year came to an end? Nursery fees. Oh, that's fun.
All of a sudden, the mortgage doesn't seem so scary. It's the nurse.
Yeah. And then going back to work and then having that, I'm sure we all have that push pull thing of, I want to be in work. I want to be doing things. I want to be doing a good job there. I also want to be a decent parent.
Yeah.
Am
You're
I
just feeling
achieving either of them? Am I failing at both?
you're with your ambitions, and a lot of us get real fulfillment and real kind of energy boost from what we do. If we're passionate about what we do, you don't want to just brush that off and be like, oh, I say this is just a mum now.
Yes. I don't know if you found this, but other people referring to you as mum grated on me a little bit. Like in the medical profession, it's like, oh, how's mum? And I was thinking, well, I'm not.
Nana? Yeah, she's fine.
Yeah.
Being a nana.
I'm not your mum. This feels slightly weird. I don't want to completely lose my identity. I'm loving being a mum. I'm really enjoying that. That's changed my world completely. Fantastic. But maybe Katey would be fine. Still call me that.
And that's why that's the area with clients that I'm working with as well. They're ambitious, they're capable, they're just kind of time and headspace poor, and kind of all the complexity that comes with this new transition of life. And like you're saying, trying to work out, right, if I take a year off here, either from work or if they're a business owner, step away from the business for 12 months, how does that impact us? I've had so many clients come to me and say, I just don't know if I can afford to have a baby.
Yeah.
And when you hear all the kind of talk at the moment in the media about dropping birth rates, and, you've got politicians making comments about taxing women that don't have babies, and you kind of look at the situation, you're like, there's so many people here that want to start or grow their families, but genuinely don't know if they can afford to do it. And they're doing the responsible thing, trying to think through that massive life choice and look at the kind of impact that will have on them, their lifestyle, but also like what life can we give a future child based on the cost of childcare. Those
Absolutely.
people need two incomes now just to give their child the bare minimum. And it's so hard to navigate alone. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring to market. Kind of, you don't need to navigate this alone.
Yeah.
We can figure it out together. And just that kind of reassurance, just that sense of like, I know what I'm doing.
This. I think towards the end of last year, I wrote a piece saying that nursery fees had dropped below £1,000 a month for the first time
Yeah.
since I've been paying these, and inevitably in January it would go back up, and it did.
Yeah.
It's back over a
And then they
thousand.
added enrichment fees.
But at its peak, it was. I think I was paying about 1,500, and to me, it's like, wow, that's an extortionate amount of money, but I don't begrudge it because I do view it as an investment in myself, in my child. He's been absolutely thriving at nursery, and those nursery staff are worth every penny.
Exactly. In my mind, it's not nursery's worth less. It's more, okay, how do you how do you just manage the impact of that cost?
Yes.
It's the same as like, well, our mortgage is a lot. But if that's the house you want, you can afford it. You just have to manage like, okay, does your lifestyle shift around it? Do you just need to be aware of it? And nursery costs have the added complication of the childcare hours. So
Yes.
again, working with people to understand, their income thresholds, how that kind of impacts their allowance, what they're entitled to, making sure that they're claiming it at the right time. Because I'll put my hands up, I messed that application up big time. I did not understand the term times. I registered. My daughter started nursery, which she loves. It's a great nursery. It's on a farm. It's wonderful. And I was like, why am I getting a bill for £2,000? Where's this come from? And obviously, it's because it's from the term time after their ninth month.
Yeah.
And she was starting at 12 months, which was 1 month before the term started. And it was so messy to get your head around. You're like, I've read this so many times. I spent an hour and a half on the phone to HMRC talking through the system,
Yeah.
them walking me through how to do it. And I've still ended up in a situation where I'm spending £2,000 more than I was expecting, more than I budgeted for that month,
Yeah.
which is only possible because I've created a buffer and I've put the foundations in place to make sure I'm safe for this kind of situation, which when you look at the statistics, most people don't have a buffer of
Yes.
that much or much more. So it's kind of like,
Because I'm obviously always talking to financial advisors and financial planners, it can be very easy to forget that people don't have that savings buffer. I think there's been research in terms of people not having £1,000 saved in their account, not even £100. It's easy for us to talk about clients and how they're doing, and actually, the majority of people out there probably don't have that at all.
yeah, definitely. And that was another thing that I kind of wanted to try and do a bit differently with Ivy is I'm working on a flat fee basis.
Yeah.
So I've structured it in a way that I don't have any minimum entry to requirement. I don't have any minimum net worth, minimum investment amounts. And that was something that felt quite important to me to be like, if somebody is earning well, they want to kind of improve their situation, they know there's stuff they can be doing, they just can't get their head around money, numbers, finances. It's just not their area. They can afford to pay a few hundred to £1,000 in a flat fee for a plan to be told exactly what to do and it will improve their situation. I wanted to be able to offer that as a service. I didn't want to say, sorry, you've not got 300k in pensions and ISAs, so I can't work with you.
Yeah.
Go figure it out. Go talk to ChatGPT or Google and figure it out. There are tools out there, people can figure lots out, but it's not a topic we're taught literacy on. So it's not a topic people are comfortable or confident on. And the biggest impact to a person's returns, a person's success investing or doing these things is indecision, inaction. If you're too scared to put the money in the market, you're not going to be in it. You're not going to get any returns. So even if you make the wrong choice and don't, get 50% here, you only get 5, it's still 5 more than if you did
What's
nothing
your
because you were
thoughts
too
on
scared.
the language around that? Because obviously there's been all this risk warnings, and I know that's been a thing with the companies have had to do that, but it does feel alarming. Capital at risk, you could lose all of your money type of thing. And regulators looking at that a little bit more. How do we soften that? The government wants the growth agenda, people investing a little bit more. So there's going to be a bit of a drive and a push to it, but it is quite a shift in society if we've not really been used to that. And it has been,
Yeah.
oh, I work hard for this money. The thought of losing it can be quite daunting.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I have to use all the regulatory language that's in place at the moment. So I use that. But I also talk a lot around the literacy side. So I talk about risk versus reward. I talk about inflation and what that means for cash in real terms. I've spoken to clients about the price of Freddos. If you've put 50p away for your Freddo and you keep it in your penny box, and then next year you go to buy it and Freddo's is 70p, your money is still 50p. You can't afford the Freddo anymore. But if you invested it, you take some risk. Some days it's less, some days it's more. But when you come to need it over the long term, and that's where we move away a little bit from Freddos. So I'm talking long term, we look
I
at
don't know, chocolate's often a need, when do I need that?
just kind of trying to talk in those real terms, trying to connect with people initially, understand their experience. Because another thing is you don't want to patronize people.
No.
You can start talking to people and start chatting about Freddos as inflation, and they go, yeah, my dad actually worked in investment banking and would talk about this around the table. So what's the RPI? And you're like, oh, okay. So you know this, you're just not confident. And that's really important. Understanding where someone's at, what their level of understanding is, the terms that they're comfortable talking in, and just touching in kind of as you're talking through these things, checking that understanding, reconfirming, does that all make sense? Do you want to explain parts of that back to me without making it like a boring lesson?
Yes.
You're not here to lecture, you're not here to patronize, but just kind of getting that understanding of where someone's at and where they want to be. Some people come to me and they really want that education piece. They've got loads of questions. Influencers, we see them all over Insta, we see them
Yeah.
all over TikTok. People come to me, they've heard a lot of the terms, then they just don't understand it. They need context. They need to know that it's legit.
That's more of a challenge nowadays as well, that there's so much content out there. What
Yes.
can you trust? What can't you?
Especially, I think something that I don't think people consider when they're the ones scrolling, the ones kind of receiving the information, is the difference between coaches and
Yeah.
advisors.
Yeah.
And I think coaches are really important. I have a lot of emphasis on coaching as well. I think that's a really important arm to it all. But knowing the difference between this is emotional habit training versus this is regulated advice and
Yeah.
how that impacts what you can post. I don't think that's always comes across. I think people think this account is really helpful. They're telling me a lot of things about performance, which funds to pick. Can you just tell me what fund to pick? And you say, well, we can talk about that. I can give you formal advice, but you need to pay for that. There's a process, there's a
Yeah.
regulated thing. I can't post invest everything into S&P 500 in 5 years you'll be able to afford, because that's not how regulated advice works. And even things like having to get posts confirmed by compliance before putting them on things like Instagram and TikTok isn't something people consider, like, oh, you can't just hop on the latest trend.
Whatever it suits you. Here's your message and run with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting so make advice more accessible really, because people don't really know what the difference between some of these things are, and sometimes we can all be guilty of then using terms interchangeably as well. We need to get that awareness out there even more, that this is something that you can go and get help and support with, and depending on what level you're at, that advisor, that planner sat in front of you will usually hopefully tailor it to your needs and what you require. But you're so right in terms of women not often being involved in the process. Now, I know my husband, his father has a financial advisor, and I was talking, and obviously because I've been writing about this for a number of years, getting a bit nosy in the process. And so what have you been discussing in terms of what you want out of retirement? He's like, oh, well, don't think we're going to retire until 67. I was like, oh, why have you chosen that number then? And how have you come about that? And is your wife involved in the process? And he's like, well, no, not until like she's about to retire or anything like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So is there a plan in place?
This is it. Yeah, there's still such an old school way of working in the financial planning world. And I think that's, you see all these terms, wealth management, advice, planner. And I think although they're very interchangeable, I think there are differences, these subtle
Yeah.
differences in kind of how people identify with how they treat the process. And I think wealth management is much more that traditional, you're a rich person, man, and I'm going to manage that for you and put it in tax efficient places. And we'll speak once a year about if you've got any excess cash, if you've got any excess allowances, we'll chat once a year, pre-tax year end, and get that sorted. And that's
Yeah.
and then the other kind of extreme end of planning is you have this much more in-depth relationship with the clients around you. What are your goals? What are your aspirations? As a couple, what do you want to achieve? Are you on the same page? If not, like, let's talk about that. Do you have the same thresholds for risk? Do you have the same understanding of your abilities to spend? Really understanding and kind of getting to grips with them as individuals, but also as a team, and what that plan looks like for the long term, what everybody wants to achieve out of the plan is, in my idea, so much more fulfilling. It's so much more interesting. And I speak to lots of people who are like, oh, I've got my dad's advisor set up stuff for me, but I'm looking to move away now because I don't think he's ever really kind of seen me as a grown up. For example, I had one client say, I think he still sees me as the junior ISA that he set up 30 years ago. And I'm a wife, a mother, a business owner. Like, I'm so successful in my own right now, and he doesn't quite see me in that way. And we see so many women in that situation moving away from advisors that their parents set up for them, or when women are widowed, there's a
Yeah. There's
massive number. I think
research
it's
out there about
75%.
yeah.
Yeah, move away when they're widowed from their advisor because they
They never
never
got
made that
up
connection.
process.
Yeah, they don't have that emotional connection or bond. They're just some person their husband used to speak to. And I think it's not doing any favors for the advisors.
I've often thought, how are you involving someone in that discussion? And I know, like you said, sometimes people keep things to themselves. And if you are viewing it as a unit, so if you have been doing things together, if you do wish to retire together, what does that look like? What's that household income?
Yeah,
And just to have some of these discussions and make it an easier thing rather than this taboo that it can be. If, oh, this person deals with finance, this
exactly.
person does something else.
Yeah, and even like I've seen clients get to retirement age and one of them have gone, yes, we've retired, let's start traveling the world. And the other's gone, what? Are you talking about? I'm retired. I just want to chill out. I just want to go play golf. What do you mean travel the world? Some people have never had those conversations of what does retirement look like? What does this career change look like? What does parenthood look like? These massive transitions in our life. And I think as advisors, a big part of our job is prompting conversations between the people in front of you and getting them to talk, getting them to kind of aspire together. I've had so many conversations where I'm like, look, yeah, I don't need answers today. Here are a couple of things to have a chat about. Go have a nice dinner, a glass of wine or a cup of tea, like float your boat. Ask each other these questions and answer them really honestly. And then when you're comfortable with your answers, come and let me know and we'll see what we can do. But it's part couples therapy.
I always sort of think me and my husband talk about a lot of things, but even when it came to us having a child, and actually it was him pushing for it a little bit more than I was potentially at the time. And then you come to that bit of trying to work out, right, well, what's that going to look like when I stop working for a bit then? And,
Yeah.
trying to figure that. And I remember sort of thinking he had the option for the shared parental leave. And bit annoying that it takes away some of my time, but we could look at that. And I think he suddenly terrified and went, "But that would be quite a lot of time off work." And I was like, "But what about me being off work for quite a long
Had
time? What's the
exactly the same conversation with my husband.
We are people that have communicated, we've been together a long time, and yet are we exactly on the same page when it's come to it?" And it's scary for both of us. We don't know how that's going to work. But yeah, so I'm curious that you had a similar encounter then.
Yeah, completely, like, exactly the same conversation. It was, yeah, right, okay, we're ready, right, we're gonna do that. And then it was, well, I'm a bit nervous for how this might impact my career, how this and that might play out. And would you want to do shared paternity leave? I was like, oh, I don't think, yeah, we were very lucky he had a generous paternity package time off. He was like, oh, I've already got that amount of time off. I couldn't possibly take
Yeah.
any more time off. So, okay, take a year off, I think an extra month would be all right. And he was
Yeah.
like, no, I couldn't possibly. I'm like, okay.
I look back, it went a lot quicker than you thought, and
Yes.
suddenly when you're at that, wow, how has 12 months gone past? How is this person a
To each and
1-year-old?
everyone's own different situation. I completely, but looking back, I'm so glad he didn't take any of my leave. Like, I lapped up every second of it.
Yes, that was, like, quite difficult to go, "Oh, that's come to an end now. How has that happened?"
Yeah. But like that, they're difficult conversations to navigate. And I think a lot of traditional advisors, like, it wouldn't occur to them to have those conversations, and kind of building that in to my onboarding with clients. I've got a whole meeting just around goal setting, just around kind of getting to grips with what their plan looks like for them. We've got points in there around IVF.
Well, I went through IVF actually came up in a conversation recently, and someone was saying that advice around that
Yeah.
because
If you're at the point where you're thinking about starting trying, lots of people go, oh, have I got a baby fund for my time off, for getting coffees, for doing NCT? It's like, okay, sure, great, have you? But have you thought about if you need IVF? Have you thought about if you need to self-fund, if you need private testing? Have you looked into what your PMI offers in terms of testing and things like that? And for most people, no. I've got clients that are same-sex relationship where, yes, obviously those conversations have had to come up much earlier, more naturally. But kind of working with those clients, I think you see much quicker how important those conversations are, and actually how valuable they are for heterosexual clients as well. And that's not an area that I saw mentors and peers talking through unprompted. And
yeah.
that's something that I was kind of like, right, that's going on my agenda. We talk through that.
So what other things are you trying to focus on? Is it predominantly women that you're going for as clients?
It's a safe space. There's no exclusion. There's no, I don't work with men, or I don't, unless they're not nice people. I don't work with not nice people.
It's a good, I mean, you set up your own business, you can impose your rules, right?
No, I will work with anyone, but I think it's important to have a specialism, to have a niche, to have somewhere that you're marketing and you're speaking to directly. I think if you go broad with marketing, you speak to no one because you're trying to speak to everyone. So I'm speaking to who I know, which is essentially me. I'm speaking to business owners, I'm speaking to mothers, I'm speaking to millennial women who are balancing the household, the job, the kids. They're still doing the school run, they're still planning that business tomorrow. They're wondering if they did the meeting notes from yesterday.
Yeah.
They've still got to get the dinner in for tomorrow. They're doing everything. And then someone goes, oh, did you check the health insurance? That's kind of where I want to enter and be like, right, let's put everything that's in your brain in a plan. Make sure that you're making incremental little steps every single day to get you closer to where you want to be, both personally and in the business or career. Make sure people understand the benefits they're entitled to. Make sure they're claiming what they're entitled to, because knowing it and actually claiming it are
Yeah.
two very different things. And obviously, if I'm working with women, I'm working with mothers, I'm working with the family, which is the husbands as well. It just, I think, has worked out so far. The people that are coming to me, the leads that I'm getting, are households where it tends to be the women who are leading those conversations.
Yeah.
Not necessarily more confident, but more, right, this needs doing. I'm going to go out, I'm going to find someone, right, hubby, wifey, I've booked in a, yeah, cool, make sure you're online. I really like working with those kinds of people.
And now for a few words from our content partner, Scottish Widows.
Making it easier for advisors, Scottish Widows brings market expertise, dedicated distribution support, and practical insights on the topics that matter, from consumer duty to the protection gap. You'll find advisor-ready tools, explainer content, protection insights, and regular thought leadership, alongside a team that can help with cases big and small. For more information about Scottish Widows and the support it provides to advice firms, speak to our business development team by emailing protectsales@lloydsbanking.com.
Really, we talk about how it was and the traditional sort of way, and obviously that has shifted.
Massively.
Now taking charge of their own things, but we do know that there are those problems that we face. And if you had a gap in your career, the pensions gap, the gender pay gap in the first place, all of these things. So sometimes you see these arguments from people going, well, women don't need specialist advice. It's the same. And you're like, "Well, but actually there are some, and often not to put everyone in that same group, but often it will be men that you'll hear some of those arguments
Yeah.
from.
I just think that it's
and it-
unique experiences we're going through. It's from becoming mothers, struggling, wanting to, not wanting to, because that faces a whole stigma of its own, women that are choosing not to become parents. And I think like that, you mentioned the pension gap, pay gap. When people move part-time, we see that a lot with inflexibilities. All these little things kind of chip away at women's wealth, chip away at our potential to grow that wealth. So things like investing, we almost need more than the guys, because we need to make the smaller pots we've got work harder, because also statistically we live longer than men. So we need our pensions to last longer. We need them to, statistically, we have more chronic illness. We have more higher costs when it comes to things like menstruation and the pretty tax and all these things that come into play, that mean actually being a woman's really expensive and it doesn't pay very well.
Yeah.
I don't think there should be anything wrong with saying we need to give women more help in understanding the system, understanding the tools at their disposal, and if they need and want it, an extra hand in getting to that next step, whether it's saving, investing, and any of the tools at our disposal.
Yeah. So how did the name Ivy come about, Danielle?
So Ivy is my middle name.
Yeah.
And it's my great granddad's middle name. So I was very lucky to have known my great grandparents for quite a long time. I think I was 16 when he passed away. So
Yeah.
it's not super often I meet other people that are like, oh yeah, I was really good friends with my great grandparents.
Yeah.
But it was his middle name and it was his mother's maiden name.
Oh,
and
wow.
that was kind of their tradition of respecting his mum and taking a piece of her down the generations. And then I can follow it all the way back to it's 16th century Cornwall. There's Mother Ivy's Bay, which we got, and I've given it to my little girl now as well. So it was an ode to family and this idea of legacy, I guess, and the power of looking back and forward. And I really love the beach.
So was it always that? Did you always think that's what I'll go for? Was it something else you were toying with?
I think anybody that goes through kind of that startup stage, you look at all the different names, you look at, Greek goddesses of power and, how we look at through all these deep meanings and that's a double entendre for this and that. And it's like, no, I'm overthinking this.
Most kids have been taken as well, haven't they?
Yeah, of course they have.
How do you go about this?
I did the cliches of just looking for everything really tied to women and my message and my power and this and that. And yeah, I got to a point where I was like, no, I'm overthinking this. I think what's worked for me so far is focusing on personal brand and putting myself out there. And if I'm building something I want to scale. It's something I want to grow, but ultimately I'm building it from me. Yeah. I'm going to put a bit of me in there.
Absolutely. And I think people welcome that. I think that's what people want now. I think in this world where we know so much stuff is being churned out, you want to see a little bit of personality. Is there someone behind that? Is there a human?
Yeah.
And financial advice and planning is so human.
So
yeah.
And I think that's something that I've noticed working with women more, is the difference in that relationship building. And I mean, I'll see if this changes as time goes on, but I think women as clients need and want more bond, more personal connection than perhaps I've seen. Maybe this is because I'm a woman, male clients, I've not seen that kind of same relationship bond. But from my experience, I've seen men being more transactional, more great. You're a professional. Yeah, we get on great, but you're the professional. I'm the client. Give me the service. And off they go. Whereas with women, I'm seeing much more they want to know about you. They want to know about, why did you start? Okay, tell me about your daughter. And there's a lot more kind of questioning back, which is lovely. I really like it. I mean, I'm actually making quite good friends with the clients I'm signing on so far, which is really, again, really lovely, really nice, and much more personal, much more intimate feeling. You feel like you really can ask quite intimate questions because you've built up that relationship. And asking someone what they want to happen to their children, to their money, to their home if they died tomorrow, is not a question you want to ask dry.
No, no, and I think sometimes actually conversations like that people are a bit afraid to have, but when we do boil it down to, there's usually someone that someone loves or they care about and they want to look after them or make sure they're okay. And we talk about this money, we talk about these figures, but really it's what that does and what
Like,
you
what's
like.
it for? Who is it for? No, is it for freedom? Is it for control? Is it for waking up and knowing that work is optional today? Is it, you know, to leave something behind for the kids? Is it to say we're going to give them the most amazing life and die with nothing? You know, they get to then have the fun of building it themselves as well. Everyone has such different outlook around money that I think it's a really fun job.
Yeah. I know you're only a couple of weeks in, Danielle, but are you managing to stick to that part-time thing at the moment?
Mostly. So far, so good. I've done a few training videos. So I do Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are working days. Tuesday and Thursday are mama baby days. And so far, I've had the odd little Zoom call on a Tuesday or Thursday where I've said explicitly, look, we've either got to try and get this around nap time or she's going to be sat on my lap.
Yeah. Yeah, we've all done the juggle.
So far I've been all right with putting that line in the sand, and it's really lovely. I've definitely been able to kind of switch off and be focused in those times where I am kind of being like, right now I'm putting my mum hat on, I'm just mum right now, and yeah, we're having a lovely time. I said to my husband, I'm not starting this, I'm not putting all this work in to spend less time with her. That's not
It's not
I'm
what
not
we're
doing all this for that.
but it obviously running a business, there's a lot of hats to wear and a lot
Yes.
of things to think about. So what were some of the challenges and hurdles to overcome to get to this point to go, right, I'm pressing go, this is happening?
I think in- initially there is it's overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed with how much there is to do. Where do you even start? And I was very lucky. I got help through the Verve Foundation, who helped. They do an incubator
Yep.
for advisors. So I went through the Verve Foundation, and I found that so useful just to kind of know what the beast I was attacking was. To be like, oh, actually, this is more doable than I always thought it was. And I always thought, like I said, it was going to be something much further down in my career because I assumed it was going to be this incredibly difficult thing to do. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy. But I think it's more the amount of things to do than it is that each thing's really hard to do. It's just lots and lots of admin.
Yes.
Yeah, I think getting set up has just been a case of sitting down with a really thorough to-do list, being realistic with like, right, this is what needs to get done now and just plowing through. This is what can wait till tomorrow and not stressing out and being like, oh no, I failed everything already because I didn't get my business cards printed before I launched. It's kind of
I don't think I've ever got through a whole stack of the business cards in whatever job
it's all LinkedIn now anyway.
good intentions, and then inevitably go to an event and go, oh, I forgot to even bring them with me today. Fantastic.
So I've got one on the fridge. I count that as a win. My mum took one. That fell, she was happy
Yeah.
with that.
Absolutely. So going back to when you first got into this profession, because so many people stumbled into financial services. Did you say you come straight out of?
Yeah. Yeah, I was one of those weird kids that wanted to be a financial planner.
How did you know about it then? Because that's quite a challenge of a lot of people do. So.
Yes. So people either stumble into it or it's someone they know. And I had my uncle was a financial planner, SJP. He's a BDM now, and that was kind of like, great, I'm going to do my work experience with him. We went out for a really nice lunch. I did some admin, and I was like, this is lovely.
This is
This is great lunch. I was like, this is really. We were in like St James's Park. I was like, oh, well, I could do this.
Yeah, I can see myself.
I looked into it and I was like, oh, I really like numbers. I really like. I'm going to sound so boring, but I love organizing and I love making a plan and I love spreadsheets and jotting up graphs and forecasting and all of that. My proper nerd side really loves all of that. But then I'm quite creative as well. And, studying growing up, it was always, so I did maths, advanced maths, economics and art. And it was,
There was a lot of numbers in there then.
yes, all numbers, but then art. And art was always my expressive, my output, my kind of like happy place. And that was like, okay, working with people and talking to people. Because I mean, I looked at accounting to start with, and I started the AAT, and I was like, I really hate this. So I love a number, but this is too many numbers. So then when I kind of like really started looking into what financial planning was beyond a nice lunch in a nice office, I was like, this is people based. This is getting to know people, asking questions about people, building relationships with people. That's more than the numbers. You know, you can have a calculator, you can have power planners and administrators and all super technical, skilled people, if that's the numbers side isn't your forte. And as long as you're good at relationship building, then being a planner can be, you know, the best job in the world, I think. And that was what really pushed me. I can mix numbers, people, and relationships and kind of creativity. And I don't think I've ever seen two financial planners come up with the same solution for a client's problem. And part of that is, how does your creative brain think? What are the paths and solutions that you go to?
Yeah.
And I just think that's really cool and that's really fun. And no 2 days the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say for others that may be thinking about this profession? Or
I would love, I've got it on my mood board, on my Pinterest board, to get out to some schools and try and help on the financial literacy side, but also on the like job awareness side, and offer kind of job experience, work experiences and things like that as I grow. Because like you say, I don't think it's a job people really know without knowing someone. I'm my friends still definitely don't know what I do. You're only like, all right, we'll talk through it again another time. But have some this fine.
Don't
We'll
worry
have this
about
fine next time.
you might need me at some point.
Yes. Definitely will. I definitely will. Lots of people don't know what we do. They don't know what we are as a career option. I think that's why we see so many latecomers,
Yeah.
career changers, because it's only maybe once people have known someone that's had a financial advisor or needed one themselves that then they go, oh, that's an interesting job. And then maybe that's something I could, and maybe then make the move. But yeah, I'd love to speak to nerdy creative kids like I was and be like, yeah, there's a job out there that's great.
Well, I keep saying I'd love to get to a point where eventually people go, I always wanted to. So you can be that one of, I was the child that wanted to be a financial planner. It's absolutely fantastic.
I mean, it wasn't the first thing I wanted to do, but by the time I left school, it was like, right, that is what I want to do.
What were you interested in beforehand then? What was you also?
So initially, it was always an artist or a fashion designer or interior designer. It was always something with the word design attached to it.
Yeah.
And now I'm a plan designer.
Yeah, you design financial plans. Yeah, you design
Exactly.
life.
But yeah, no, I still like to get a paintbrush out every now and then. But it's, yeah, I definitely find this ticks the boxes across those different brain usages.
Yeah. So I've seen you've been looking to collaborate a little bit more widely as well, and learn from others and stuff. Can you talk me through how that's been going so far?
A little overwhelming.
Yeah. You seem to
Amazing.
have a lot of responses and people,
Yes.
oh, I can
I
put you in
think
touch with
I
this.
was expecting 10 to 15 people to talk to and to have coffees with and learn about what they do and see if they're people that I can refer to, or if they speak to people, if there's someone that I can get referrals from, and how we can work together in that way. I think I ended up with close to 200 messages.
Going through them now.
I'm still going through them. I've got my Excel spreadsheet with my list of names, professions, a kind of summary of what they do, and I'm still adding to it. I'm going to have to draw the line in the sand somewhere here, because I still actually have a job to do now.
Yes, yeah, I've set up this day job now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just a director now. But no, the whole kind of idea is, I don't think that clients get the most for their money or the best outcomes from teams working in silos.
Yeah.
So I think most people, if they've got a financial advisor, they'll have an accountant, they'll have a solicitor. You know, if you've got a house, you might have a mortgage advisor, a solicitor for that. If you've had wills, you might have had all these different kind of professions that people touch base with, particularly in these busy periods of life, starting a family, buying houses, upsizing, career changes, starting businesses, maybe need HR help, maybe need IT security help, all these things. I just think if you can come to me and I can say, you need help with all these things. I can chat to all these people and sort it out for you.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I do that? How many less tabs are going to be in my client's brain by just going, oh, thank God, right, I don't need to contact that person, that person, that person. I can just authorize Danielle to speak to XYZ, share my details. I might have to sign some documents, but I don't need to go and research them, get reviews, get pricing, get all the things that we all put off because it's too much and we don't have the time. That's the idea, making the client's life easier, taking some stress off their plate and helping make sure that it actually happens. How many clients do you say you really need a will? I know, I really need a will. Here's the details for someone to write you a will. They take it away. And then you speak to them next year. Did you write your will? Oh, I've got the details of that person, but I went on my to-do list. Of course it went on their to-do list. Of course it sunk to the bottom of the list. But if I can step in and say, I've got this person, I can arrange a meeting, or we're going to have a call next month. This person's going to be on the call so we can get it sorted. I can arrange payment from this cash account that I manage for you to pay them, authorize it all, let me know you're happy with it all. I'm not going to do anything without your, knowledge, happiness, but I can manage the stressful bits. And even really nice stuff like, okay, you're getting married, you're saving for this honeymoon. I'm telling you, you've hit your saving goal for this honeymoon. Here's a travel agent. Let's plan it. Yeah, let's not shove it on a to-do list. You're retiring and you can finally do that trip of a lifetime, that cruise around Antarctica that you've always dreamed of and you've talked about for the last 20 years we've worked together. I've been telling you can do it. Why let it sit in the hypothetical of like, great, this plan says I can do this fun stuff. Great, Danielle says I can afford to do this fun stuff. No, let's plan the fun stuff. Let's make the hard work of saving, investing, of all the kind of admin you've managed. Let's give you the reward of what you've been working for. Let's make the here and now really fun and exciting.
Do you think people find that hard to see? Because it's one thing trying to plan for something and thinking, and then actually when you get to that point, I know I've been guilty of it myself. I've saved up for something and then moments come and then you're spending the money on it. And for some reason, you suddenly feel a bit guilty. And you're like,
yeah, massively. Yeah, and that's so common. It's so common. I think it takes so much work to build the habit to save, to go with a little bit less. And we drill this deferred, what's it called? Deferred gratification and all this and that actually when we finally get it, it can feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It can feel a bit naughty, for a bit of a weird word. It feels a bit like, oh, I'm not meant to be doing this because that's meant to be in my savings. And now what said 100% has gone to 0%. And that feels uncomfortable. It feels like you're going back a step. Again, this is where your planner should come in and be like, no, this is what it's for. Yeah. This is what we're working towards. I've had clients who get to retirement and there was one gentleman who was so lovely and he'd worked so hard his whole life and he'd got to a point where he was debt-free, he had no dependents, he had a defined benefit pension paying him everything he needed for all of his expenses, and then he had a healthy pot, pension, ISAs, etc. sat there. And he was telling me about this dream trip. I was like, go on it. He was like, oh, I can't. Oh, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Oh, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
You can.
Why can't you? And he was like, oh, no, I had to buy a laptop last month. And you're like, okay. Again, I was like, look, let's do the cash flow. Let's forecast this. Took the laptop out, barely a decimal point in all of this, okay?
The laptop's all right.
Yeah, I was like, you could buy a laptop a week. I was like, you'd be okay. Like, it's all right. So then we went through all right, let's have this dream trip. He's like, oh, I couldn't possibly spend that much on it. Okay, well, realistically, that's roughly how much like that trip would cost. So let's put that in, plus a bit more for some spending money. Still barely made a dent. I was like, any other trips you want to do? Oh, well, yeah, there would be. I'd love to do this, and I always said to my mum about a bucket list of doing that. So we put it all in, and even doing like everything on his bucket list, he was still left with money, a decent, and like not, barely nothing, like still left with a really significant pot. And it was only talking about time isn't guaranteed for anyone. We don't know what's going to happen next year, next week, 5 years from now. So if your health and wealth align to you being able to have some freedoms and some fun now, doing so isn't putting yourself in a detrimental later in life,
Yeah.
why would you not give that to yourself?
Yeah.
And it all came back to, he'd watched his parents work so hard. He'd come from a council estate. I was like, me too, mate. Like, it's what you witness growing up and how much of an impact that has on your relationship with money. And that's
Yeah.
something I talk to a lot of clients about. It goes beyond literacy. It's that actual, how does money make you feel? How does not having money make you feel? How does having money make you feel? Is there guilt? Is there shame? Is there fear? And all of that had come into this thing where he's like, well, it's not my money, it's mum and dad's money. And they worked really hard. So I couldn't possibly spend it on just something fun. I have to struggle for something fun. It's like, you don't. And it's so hard, but so much of the work goes around the technical side, the solutions, the plan, but the emotion side and the coaching. And that's why I don't ever want to put financial coaches down, because the coaching work is so important to make sure that people are living their lives and they're doing it with as much joy and as little fear as possible, while still having that technical safety blanket and that security and that foundation in place that makes sure that they can do those things without the fear, without the shame, without the guilt.
And you're right, so much of it is that like emotional thing and how our brain is wired on these things. And like, well, can't I? And hopefully, if someone's actually gone to seek a financial planner, you'd hope they're being supported on that journey of that's okay.
Yeah, and like that, I think there's so many more. Yeah, there's so many more people doing exactly those conversations. I'll never claim to be the only one doing that. Never. So many people are doing that now. And I think it's clients just all the better for it, kind of. Yeah.
So what's on the top of the to-do list for you then now as you're looking to grow?
So tippity top of the to-do list now is get onboarding. So one of the last things on my list this week was having my client-facing documents, my contracts, my partnership agreement all signed off by compliance. I got that authorized. So let's get some contracts out there and get some client work rolling through. Actually get started.
So you're getting some support from is it a network that you're part of then?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm authorised via Valid Path, so I'm appointed representative of them, and they've kind of helped with the whole onboarding. They provide the compliance support in the background and some of the tech stack as well, and then they obviously get a cut of revenue in kind of return for that. So,
and obviously they must have been pretty welcoming on the fact of the part-time stuff and how you want to be flexible in that.
I mean, from their side, they were very much like, look, this is your business. This is your business. So like you do you. They provide the support in the areas that they provide, but they don't in any way dictate kind of my proposition, both in terms of a costing or service or what investments, products, providers I can offer. They're very much like, you're independent, you're whole of market. We don't want to restrict that in any way. So you build the business you want to build. We'll support the areas that we're built to support. And that's it. Otherwise, we'll stay out your way.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure your previous firm was sad to lose you.
It was sad both ways. It was a really great firm. I'm still on really good terms with the whole team. Yeah, they were all really lovely. And the guys in charge of Steve were really good, really amazing mentors, really helped me through transition, advising, and how to build around clients. They're a really like client-centered firm, which was always so important to me. They were a firm I really looked up to for a long time. I was their little fangirl stalker until I was able to work there myself. So I'm still on really good terms. And I think they understand I'm just looking to service a different area of the market to what's their target, what's commercially viable for them. They're business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they understand that need and drive and desire to kind of build something for yourself and the freedoms that gives you. And again, they've got their own families, they know the struggle, they know that it's not easy to offer that flexibility. It's not easy to kind of build a client bank, service a client bank without disrupting other members of the team. So yeah, I think they understand it and they've been really supportive. And but it was sad. It was sad to not have my little team meeting on Monday morning now.
Well, I'm sure they'll be cheering you on from the sidelines anyway.
But I'll meet them for a tequila at some point.
Is there something you're really anxious about though, in terms of now going it alone?
Do you know what?
That's a valid answer. That's okay.
No, that's probably not true. Do you know what does make me nervous? The thought that I'm IT now.
Yes.
Actual
I am
kind
that
of
just as well as yeah.
the business side, scaling. I love operations. I love processes. I'm really excited to kind of get my processes and system and my tech stack sorted, and even the accounting side and understanding how to grow and scale and build a team and start employing, like that side. I'm really excited by it. I know it's going to be a huge challenge,
Mm.
but a challenge that excites me rather than
Yeah.
scares me. A healthy amount of scare, but I'm not anxious about it. The planning side is like the comfort side, like, right, I know what I'm doing. The admin and para planning it's a necessary evil to
Yeah, I
do
think
all myself at the moment. But
you could be great at running a business and advising clients. Probably a lot of them that are business owners have that same thing as well. Of there's
this
always
is it. I don't think you need to
take
love
it
doing
away.
every aspect.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't plan on doing every aspect to start with. I very much want to build the team out, because I know there's such important areas I really value for planner and administrative support. I say necessarily evil not to poo-poo them, but just, oh God, I'm going to have to do them. That bit like, oh, how am I going to balance that time to start with? But yeah, it's the IT support that I'm like, oh, my
Yeah.
laptop doesn't turn on one day. I'm not quite sure what I do.
Switch it off and on again, right? That's the running joke, isn't it?
I'm so independent and feminist until my laptop doesn't work.
Please. So much, Danielle. Wish you all the best in it. Just as we're coming to an end, is there a personal money rule that you live by?
It's always the foundations. It's always that emergency fund, making sure you've got the protection, the wills, really making sure that the foundations are in place before you even start looking at saving and investing. Yeah. That's every friend that I talk to that tries to work out what I do for a job. I say, do those things and then we'll talk.
Well, we can direct them to this now and give them a bit more of an understanding as well.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for your time. Really lovely speaking to you.
Expertise that helps make advice easier. Distribution support, advisor tools, and thought leadership from Scottish Widows. For more information about Scottish Widows and the support it provides to advice firms, speak to our business development team by emailing protectsales@lloydsbanking.com.